Hi all, someone was asking me about the named variations of the Sicilian Defence yesterday, and I was thinking about doing such a video anyway, so I think I'm going to try and show you. This is with the improved Learn from the Masters page. I've actually made sure there's more space to see the text here. It's interactive, and a lot of the information is from Wiki. I'll try and give you a little tour of the Sicilian Defence, most of the name variations as a sort of revision video. So E4, C5, we're into the Sicilian Defence here. I'm going to try and do this tour with the help of the Wiki structure. So basically the most common move, second move, and we'll go on to other moves maybe later, is knight f3. Pardon me. Play knight f3. Now black usually plays d6 here, which leads to some major branches, but there's also some other possibilities like knight c6 and g6. For the moment, let's consider d6, and this will enter the open Sicilian. So d6 is the most common, and then usually white plays for the open Sicilian, opening up, exchanging off the d pawn for the c pawn. And here, if we arrive at this position, this is a key position for some named territory. So basically, get ready here. The Najdorf is like the Rolls Royce of the Sicilian variations. Very, very popular. The Najdorf A6. The dragon is G6. That's the dragon variation. The classical is knight C6. So just developing the knight here is called the classical variation. Now, if you play e6 straight off the bat, sometimes this can happen after a6 anyway, but if you play, it's the Scheveningen variation, this little centre is set up. It does mean that the Kerrer's attack is possible with g4. Kerrer's attack. But, okay, so e6, Scheveningen. Now, if you played e5 without a6, then bishop b5 check is the Venice attack, and that's one of the reasons a6 is very popular actually as well. The Najdorf variation would stop this check, this Venice attack. Sometimes white can get good, well, outposts on d5, for example. The kingscrusher variation is actually bishop d7. Okay, that should be noted here. It's rarely played, kingscrusher, just using Wiki as well as a reference here. Okay, now within the Najdorf variation, okay, let's so we've looked at the main ones resulting from that move d6 earlier. Now let's go back, and instead of d6, replace that move d6, which is the most popular, with knight c6 on move 2. This is interesting as well because it's controlling the centre. And after d4 we get some other distinctive named variations. C takes, knight takes. What I used to play a lot is coming up here. Sveshnikov variation, sometimes called the Pelican. Sveshnikov. So this is a very interesting line I used to play a lot. On 4, if we go back to move 4, okay, so around about here, in fact, g6, sorry, after takes g6, the accelerated dragon. If we played e5 straight off the bat, so the Bordelais Lowenfall, and if knight b5, d6, Kalashnikov variation. If we go back round about here, so now let's go to, instead of knight c6, let's consider e6 now. this is some distinctive branches now after e6. Instead of knight c6 or d6, we'll go for e6 now. d4, c takes, knight takes. We get some distinctive branches. The Taimanov variation, named after Mark Taimanov, pianist, famous pianist, and contender played with Fischer, if you remember. Fischer wiped him out 6-0. We've got a6 is the can, sometimes known as the Paulson variation as well. So it's prevents knight b5 and interested in b5 advance. We can actually go with also knight f6, knight c3, leads to some name variations. Here, the 4 knights variation. So this is named, believe it or not, with the pawn on e6, which is less popular than d6. So the 4 knights variation, which is used as a way of getting into the Sveshnikov. It can be used as a way of getting into Sveshnikov. Now, let's disregard that for a moment. Knight c6. Pin variation, just pin, early pin. Funny enough, pin variation. Now, let's go back, rewind a bit, and consider some other alternatives early on now. So I'm using Wiki to help in this grand tour. d6, there's bishop b5 check. So this is interesting. Kanel Sokolsky attack. And now I'm starting to get lost here. If we have without d6, we have knight c6 and we have bishop b5. Let's go. This is the Nimzovich Rosalimo attack. Remember that attacking plan Rosalimo, using this with great success. So knight c6, bishop b5. Okay, and if we go back to the second move, some alternatives here. By the way, I mean, there is a detailed dual commentary video on the channel where I went through a lot of stuff with Paul Georgie. If you want to get some of the more ideas, more meat. This is just a sort of tour of the named variations. Here, G6 is the hyper-accelerated dragon. A6 is the O'Kelly variation. Knight f6 is the Nimzovich-Rubinstein variation. If we go back and to the second move of white, knight c3 is the closed Sicilian. Also some of my favourites coming up. The Alapin variation, got my favourite in Blitz, the Smith-Morra Gambit. You can have inferior Grand Prix attack with f4. Usually, because of d5, knight c3 is often played as a preliminary to sort of into the Grand Prix attack system, actually. It should be mentioned there's a couple that there's some edits here needed. But this is the traditional way of getting into the Grand Prix attack. And yeah, I think that's a little bit of the name variations. You might want to play this video again just to make sure, and use this facility as well. Maybe write them all down and then use this facility, so that's on to improve, learn from the masters. But I'll review the video myself and fill in any gaps here. Okay, so that's a little tour of some of the name variations of the mighty Sicilian Defence. It was just asked yesterday about it, so I thought I'd do this. It prompted me to do this video as well. Okay, I hope you got something from it. Just a quick revision video. Comments, questions, likes appreciated. Thanks very much.